What if I told you that sleeping less doesn't have to mean feeling exhausted, and that your brain can be hacked to wake up sharper than ever? Stay tuned, because psychology has a dark secret about sleep you don't want to ignore. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that the body dictates when we sleep and when we wake. That exhaustion is absolute, unavoidable, a prison sentence handed down by biology itself. But psychology tells a darker truth. The mind can lie to the body. It can convince you that you are alert, awake, even sharp, when in reality, you've barely touched the edge of rest. This is the mind over fatigue illusion, and it's a dangerous, fascinating power that most people never realize exists. The trick lies in perception. Fatigue is as much a mental construct as a physical one. Your neurons generate signals of tiredness, yes, but how your brain interprets those signals can be altered. A surge of adrenaline, a spike of cortisol, even something as simple as forcing your attention on a single task, can make your brain rewrite the narrative of exhaustion. Suddenly, you feel capable, even energetic, while your body whispers warnings that go unheard. This is the thin line between mastery and abuse. You are borrowing wakefulness from tomorrow, convincing yourself that the hours lost to sleep do not exist, and for a while, they don't. There's a subtle dark side here, a psychological seduction. The more you learn to manipulate perception, the more the illusion strengthens. You start to trust your mind over the signals of your body. You believe you can cheat biology itself, but every cheat comes with a cost. Cells repair, hormones reset, memories consolidate. All of these processes require time that the mind can't fabricate. So while you may wake feeling fresh, beneath the surface, the debt accrues. It waits, and eventually it calls in a way that can't be ignored. Yet, within this deception lies the power that so few harness. Understanding the mechanisms of perceived alertness opens doors most people fear to walk through. Strategic stimulation, brief mental challenges, sharp focus on immediate goals, or even carefully timed exposure to light can amplify the brain's ability to override signals of fatigue. You can trick yourself into performing at levels you never thought possible. Psychologists call it cognitive arousal. It's a controlled chaos, a dance with your own neurochemistry. When done carefully, it is mesmerizing. When abused, it is destructive. There's also a sinister elegance in how quickly the mind adapts. The first nights of short sleep feel punishing, each hour missing like a hammer against the skull. But soon the brain recalibrates. It begins to compensate, to extract more alertness from less rest. This isn't magic. It's an exploitation of a system built for survival. It's a shadowy demonstration of how adaptable, yet vulnerable, the human psyche can be. And in this darkness, you see your reflection, powerful, clever, dangerous. To master the mind over fatigue illusion, you must embrace discomfort. You must stare at the edge of your limits and step closer to them with eyes wide open. It's not about reckless deprivation. It's about knowing the mechanisms, the triggers, the subtle signals that allow the brain to overrule the body without breaking it. And every time you succeed, you feel invincible. Every time you falter, you glimpse the darkness beneath the mind's clever tricks. The body is fragile, the mind is ruthless, the illusion lasts until it doesn't. We live at the mercy of our circadian rhythm, that invisible clock ticking deep inside our brains, dictating sleep, wakefulness, hunger, and mood. Most people think it is fixed, untouchable, a law written into the wiring of our biology. But psychology whispers a darker truth. It is malleable. The rhythm that governs life can be bent, twisted, manipulated, and those who understand it can claim hours of wakefulness that others surrender to sleep. The dark power lies not in defiance, but in subtle persuasion. You don't fight your biology outright. You coax it, convince it, seduce it into compliance. Circadian manipulation begins with understanding light. Light is not just illumination. It is a language the brain speaks fluently. Blue light in the morning, subtle darkness in the evening, strategically timed exposure to artificial or natural light. These are signals that can reset the rhythm, advance it, delay it. By mastering these cues, You can compress your sleep cycles, force deep restorative stages to arrive faster, and awaken earlier while feeling no grogginess. It is a quiet form of dominance over the body, a psychological leverage that feels almost supernatural. But the manipulation does not stop at light. Temperature, activity, even the timing of food intake can whisper commands to your internal clock. A warm shower, a brief burst of exercise, carefully placed caffeine, they all become instruments in a symphony of controlled wakefulness. Each element nudges the rhythm, reshaping it to your needs, allowing you to claim hours that sleep would normally demand. You are not breaking the rhythm, you are bending it to your will. And in that bending, there is a thrill, a dark satisfaction in knowing your body will obey your mind. There is, of course, a shadow beneath this mastery. The circadian rhythm evolved for a reason. It protects, repairs, and balances. When you manipulate it, even with precision, you are intruding into a system millions of years in the making. Disrupt too aggressively, and you pay a psychological toll, irritability, fragmented focus, a creeping sense of unease that lingers in corners of the mind. You are walking on the edge of an abyss, coaxing power from something designed to regulate life, and that edge is always closer than you think. Yet the rewards are seductive. When timed perfectly, your body compresses sleep into deep, efficient bursts. You wake not just earlier, but sharper, more alert, with a mind that feels as though it has cheated time itself. The brain's chemistry aligns almost magically, and the world feels slower around you, every second elongated as your senses surge with clarity. You have stolen hours from the night, and the night does not even know. You have become a quiet predator of time, exploiting the hidden plasticity of your own biology. The darkness in this is not cruelty, but revelation. You are forced to confront your limits, to understand that comfort, routine, and biology are negotiable, pliable, and occasionally treacherous. Mastery of your circadian rhythm is seductive because it promises power, but it whispers danger with every gain. Each manipulation carries a weight unseen until it arrives. Psychological cracks, annoying fatigue that even the mind cannot disguise. The balance is fragile, and the thrill comes from knowing you are tiptoeing along it, bending natural order to your will. Circadian manipula. Eon is not about reckless rebellion. It is a calculated seduction of the mind and body. It is a dark art, hidden in plain sight, a psychological weapon for those willing to understand and endure the consequences. Those who master it do not simply wake. They rise, alert and untouchable, while the world still sleeps. Time obeys the cunning. There is a strange and dangerous paradox hiding in the way our bodies respond to stress. Most people think stress is the enemy of rest, a warning sign to slow down, to retreat into sleep. But psychology tells a darker truth. Controlled stress can be a tool, a lever to override the body's natural signals of fatigue. The adrenaline-arousal paradox is the art of using the body's own chemical arsenal to convince your brain that exhaustion is an illusion, that sleep is optional, and that you are still capable of peak performance. It is thrilling, intoxicating, and not without its shadows. Adrenaline is not inherently malevolent. It is survival distilled into a molecule, a signal that heightens senses, sharpens focus, and ignites energy from reserves that otherwise lie dormant. When harnessed strategically, it can serve as a bridge between fatigue and wakefulness. A sudden mental challenge, a high-stakes task, even a brief, controlled exposure to stress, these can trigger a cascade of chemicals that temporarily suppress the signals of tiredness. Your mind, suddenly electrified, feels alive. Every neuron is buzzing, alert, while your body protests quietly beneath the surface. It is a delicate dance between mastery and danger. The paradox emerges because what keeps you awake is also what can destroy equilibrium. Stress releases cortisol, a hormone that keeps you alert, but also corrodes rest if left unchecked. A short burst is invigorating. Sustained, it becomes corrosive. Yet within that fleeting window lies the dark beauty, the ability to function at your mental peak on far less sleep than biology intended. Athletes, creatives, even those driven by obsession have glimpsed this edge, walking along it carefully, knowing that one misstep could tip them into chaos. It is power tinged with risk. Psychologically, the effect is magnified by perception. The brain is a master of interpretation, and when adrenaline surges, the body's signals of fatigue are drowned in a rush of perceived alertness. You feel capable, even unstoppable. Focus narrows, clarity sharpens, and every movement becomes precise. Time seems to expand. You are, for a brief moment, untouchable. Yet the mind knows deep down that this borrowed energy is borrowed. It is debt hidden in plain sight, accumulating silently. And the mind, as cunning as it is, whispers that the debt does not matter. Until it does. There is a dark seduction in this technique. It gives the illusion of control over one of the most fundamental forces of existence, the need for sleep. You convince yourself that exhaustion is optional, that hours lost to rest can be reclaimed through sheer will and chemical trickery. But the paradox is always present. The sharper your mind feels now, the more the body is quietly rebelling, its equilibrium teetering on the brink. To push too far is to flirt with breakdown, to gamble with mental and physical collapse. The thrill is addictive, yet the danger is constant. Controlled arousal is not about recklessness. It is about understanding the balance between stimulation and collapse, between borrowing energy and incurring debt. When done intentionally, it allows you to wake earlier, think clearer, and act faster than your peers, who surrender to sleep unquestioningly. The body is temporarily subdued, the mind is temporarily exalted, and in this temporary conquest, there is a lesson: the limits we accept are often illusions, and the mind is capable of far more than we give it credit for. You are awake because you dared. Humans are creatures of ritual, and our brains are hardwired to respond to patterns, cues, and repetition. Sleep is no exception. The darkness hides a fascinating truth. Our perception of rest and wakefulness can be manipulated through psychological rituals. These routines, small and seemingly innocent, are in fact tools to cheat the mind, to convince it that it has rested even when it has not, and to create a fragile but potent sense of alertness that can last far longer than the hours actually spent in slumber. The power of ritual lies in the subconscious. The brain craves predictability. Every night we perform a sequence of actions: brushing teeth, dimming lights, scrolling briefly on a phone. That signal to our nervous system that the body should unwind. But when these signals are deliberately designed and controlled, they become more than cues for rest. They become levers for perception. A carefully timed pre-sleep routine, paired with mental visualization of wakefulness, can sharpen the mind, slow the perceived encroachment of fatigue, and prepare the body to awaken with surprising clarity. It is subtle manipulation, almost imperceptible, yet devastatingly effective. Morning rituals are no less powerful. The act of rising at a fixed time, exposing yourself to light, stretching, or engaging in brief, intentional mental challenges acts as a signal that the day has begun and that your system is alert. These are not just habits, they are psychological hacks that exploit the brain's desire for structure. When repeated consistently, they create an automatic response. Wakefulness becomes a conditioned reflex, and the hours of sleep you sacrifice feel less like deprivation and more like a deliberate strategy. There is a dark elegance in this deception. By leaning into these rituals, you are exploiting your own biology, bending it to your will. The subconscious does not distinguish between genuine rest and simulated readiness. It responds to cues, and if the cues are carefully orchestrated, it produces the illusion of rejuvenation. You can wake after fewer hours, sharper, clearer, more composed, while the world still slumbers. The mind is seduced, but the body is quietly complicit, its systems deceived into compliance. Yet, like all psychological tricks, there is a danger lurking beneath the surface. The illusion of rest is fragile. Break the ritual and the system collapses. Miss a cue, disrupt a sequence, and exhaustion floods in with a vengeance, more crushing than if you had surrendered to sleep naturally. The mind can be trained to cheat, but it cannot erase the fundamental need for restoration indefinitely. The closer you dance to the edge, the thinner the line between mastery and chaos, between controlled wakefulness and total breakdown. The ritual also has a psychological toll that is less obvious, but no less real. By manipulating cues, by telling the subconscious what to feel and when, you create a system that relies on strict adherence. Freedom is surrendered in exchange for performance. You are bound to the sequence, yet in this bond lies extraordinary power. When executed flawlessly, you rise earlier, think faster, and operate at levels most people never imagine. You have taught the mind to obey, to serve, to transform deprivation into an illusion of strength. It is subtle domination, intimate and silent, and it leaves a mark that is both empowering and unsettling. Ultimately, these rituals are a negotiation with the mind. You ask it to accept illusion as reality, to trust cues over bodily signals, and in return, it delivers temporary mastery. It is a dark pact, a fragile agreement between awareness and survival, between control and res. When the ritual is complete, when the sequence is executed, you awaken not just rested, but sharpened, as if sleep itself had yielded to your cunning. Control the ritual, you have bent the mind, twisted the rhythm, seduced alertness, and commanded the subconscious. Sleep is no longer a master, it is a tool. But every gain casts a shadow, and every borrowed hour whispers a debt. Stay vigilant. The night always remembers.